Britain is broke from going woke, but can it be repaired? Welcome to Mark and Pete. Now, here's a thought.
An inclusive cloak. No woman, no bloke. No female, no menfolk. You're cancelled at a stroke if you simply misspoke. Don't smoke, don't choke, don't laugh, don't joke. Wear an inclusive cloak. Go woke, go broke. Well, according to
Yes,
Madeline
quite
Kearns,
so.
who is a Telegraph media expert, she said in a recent article, history-hating Britain is the wokest country in the West. Remarkable. And in fact, goes on to say, rewriting history to suit the identity of obsessed narcissisms of the modern world is nothing less than cultural vandalism. Now, is this true? Now, what's extraordinary is the fact that the Oxford definition of woke may not necessarily be what everybody thinks. It simply alerts to the fact that it's about racial or social discrimination and injustice. Or is it? Clergyman Pete, I ask you, what is your definition of woke?
Well, woke is really an overemphasis on splitting people into groups. These groups would be in race, sexuality, and gender. And that's the definition that I will work from. It's not simply looking at justice. And by the way, as soon as you have to put a descriptor onto justice, it suddenly isn't justice. Justice is justice. Things are either right or they're not. As soon as you say you got racial justice, what exactly are you talking about? And it confuses matters. Woke is really a splitting of people into different groups and judging people from the group that they're in. But there's something to add to that, and that is this: there is a hierarchy of these groups, and the more that they are seen as being oppressed or victims, the better they need to be treated. And so within races, you'll have the oppression of the blacks during the 18th and 19th century slave trade. It means that black people are very high up. White people are right at the bottom because they have, it is claimed, been historically favoured by the culture and society in which we live. So people who are the same genders that they started at birth, that's what it's always been the case. So they therefore are not victims, whereas people who have changed what gender they are because they are transgender, they are then victims. So it's splitting people into these different groups and then assigning a hierarchy of victimhood to the group. That's wokeness.
Well, interestingly, according to YouGov, the research company, 1 in 7 Britons, that's around 14%, say being woke is a good thing. And that really just sort of makes you wonder then where that statistic will increase over time. Now, here's my take on the fact that, yes, there are different interpretations of what being woke is about. But I'm going to come at it from a business perspective. Why not? I'm a businessman. So here we go. What's interesting is that diversity and inclusion, many people will have heard of it. Essentially, the idea of being fair, that you, when you're making judgments on an individual or a group of individuals, you want to make sure that when it comes to business, that you're inclusive, that you allow for the balance of men, women, whether creed, etc. And that in principle works, but unfortunately in practice what can often happen is when you layer a criteria of tick box tokenism, this is the diversity and inclusion that I see, what it does is distracts from your real measures of success. Because if your measures of success are based on whether you've got a woman being a CEO or whether you've got enough women being in the executive suite or certain people, whether they're white, black or anything else in between, what typically tends to happen is that you're moving away from real skill. And so in business, when we talk about Britain being broke, and this is definitely one of the challenges, is nurturing people into work to those people who are best at doing the job. And that's definitely something that I've seen in business, which has not happened in recent times because people are being appointed not because they're necessarily good at their job. It's just simply that they're of a certain type of person.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is a danger. And one of the reasons why, and I will say that, let's be honest, I think most people will hold their hands up, that in recent times, our current government has failed on a number of fronts.
Yes.
However, what has happened is that when you put the measures of success on a diversity and inclusion scale, as opposed to meritocracy based upon skills, experience, and talent, etc. Now, some people will say, no, 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 it's definitely a combination. In practice, folks, that's not what's happening. What's actually happening is in business, this layer of woke, dare I say, diversity and inclusion is actually more the uppermost in people's minds. You've seen it where the people are sort of talking around the types of individuals they have in certain types of jobs. Well, what we should be thinking about is nurturing people at the right, fair assessment, right from education, from when they go through education. And it's true, people have different skills for different reasons. But I think just simply having a woman to be the CEO or simply a man to be something else for the sake of it is not a good idea. But what we should be doing is having a fair platform. So I do agree with the, dare I say, the one leaf out of the D&I book, which is you want fairness. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this is where I think in business it's gone too far the other way. Now, in Britain, because we're talking about Britain, a few years ago, there was a name and shaming. Because for those who remember in the media, organizations by law had to actually reveal how many men, women, etc., were in certain roles. Now, what that did, it named and shamed many companies because either there were too many men, or dare I say, even too many women in some cases, depending on the professions.
Yeah.
Now, what that did is it made somebody, if it was a man and or a woman, respectively, be shameful of the fact that they were a man or a woman, as opposed to that they were good at that job. To me, that's where it went too far. And I think we're still suffering from the legacy of this. So when it means being woke, I agree that I think what we've done is that we've taken our eye off really what is the main prize, which is you want the best people for the job. But to get to the best people for the job, I agree we need to nurture all people, whoever they are, wherever they come from. So Clergyman Pete, we talk about repairing things. How does Britain get over this woke joke and not go broke? What is the best way to start readdressing this problem?
Well, what we need to get back to is emphasizing, as you say, meritocracy, trying to achieve, and the importance of family. Part of wokeness is obsessing over certain groups that you put in, including sexual orientation, including gender, not just male or female, but other invented genders. So these need to be abandoned and get back to the truth, biological reality. By the way, somehow, I mean, I tried to give a brief definition of wokeness. Actually, somehow climate change gets in there as well, and it's the effects of climate change are said to affect certain races more than others. I don't know what actual rational reasons there are for that. So the way to change it, because we've got here is basically a series of mistaken ideas. Uh, the way to deal with race problems is not to obsess about it, but rather to look at people's character, which was Martin Luther King's dream, his idea that people will be treated on their character rather than their race, and the same for all those other different groups. And the way to do that, to counter a bad idea, is by promoting a good idea. And fighting back about cancel culture or risking being cancelled by having public exchanges in which the absurdity of the woke ideas are highlighted is being done. And some podcasts, TV shows, etc., which do this are becoming more and more popular. And over in the United States, the popular show with Dr. Phil,
Yes.
who has that sort of reality TV show. He's being very obviously anti-woke, and this public ridicule of the woke idea and countering it with just common sense ideas will eventually change it. Good ideas do win in the end. Our enemy in this is cancel culture, which people are cancelled for their anti-woke views.
That's right.
And fighting back against that with organisations such as the Free Speech Union taking on people legally and that sort of thing, gradually will grind it out. So I don't see woke slowing down now, but I see it dying out within a generation. So I think it's that sort of generational change, because the new generation coming up are a large percentage of them are woke already.
Yes.
And so that's the only way to do it, though, is to counter the bad ideas with good ideas and to have public discussions about them.
Well, I agree with that, and there's an opportunity and a potential platform, and I'll give you my reason of how we can repair this. We're going to go into a general election, but here's some statistics for you folks. So YouGov continued the conversation about woke and interviewed people who were Conservative voters and Labour voters. Now, what was interesting, this was a survey that was done just over a year ago. And what it identified is that more Conservative voters understand what woke means, but it hasn't increased the number who think it's a good thing. Now, what it states here is in percentage terms of the few thousands that voted for, or researched. Labour voters, 31%, said that it was a good thing. Only 4% of Conservatives thought it was a good thing. So therein is, and the principle of having an open and honest debate about what matters is an opportunity in itself to get our act together. This is where I believe that politicians, as well as people who are voters, should now start to have an open and honest conversation about what really matters and where the focus should be to address all the things that are wrong in our society. So, folks, maybe this is the opportunity. Yes, there's a general election that will be taking place. Who knows when, but it's got to be within the next 9 months. So, Clergyman Pete, I wonder what our true listeners think about woke.
Yes, let us know. Get in touch with us. Go to markandpete.com. Check you're subscribed, and then you can leave a comment on this and any episodes. We just love to hear from you. But for this week, it's goodbye from Mark and myself. Catch you next time.